Hey guys, what's going on? This is Matt Wenning at winningstrength.com. Today we're shooting the video in the office where we used to do a lot of the podcasts, and the podcasts will probably come back online at some point in the future. That got all screwed up with COVID, but this video is interesting because this is why I'm against doing a lot of trap bar deadlifts, or saying that trap bar deadlifts are more safe than doing regular traditional barbell deadlifts. So if you're in disagreement, leave a comment below, but hear me out the entire video and let me know what you think by the end. Now, I remember probably around the late 90s that I heard people talking about how much safer the trap bar was for athletes. And, you know, being a powerlifter, and already a really good powerlifter even at that time, with about 7 or 8 years under my belt, I always got confused because when I did the trap bar, it didn't feel any safer to me. What it actually felt like was I could do way more weight with way more spinal loading than I could do with a regular bar. And that's why I think a lot of people went to it, was initially because the trap bar, for most people, especially with the handles up, you're able to lift more because it's less range of motion. But we also know that the trap bar, because of this, starting around 30 years ago, people started using trap bar only and completely getting away from the straight bar deadlift. And I want to kind of show you guys a couple little things on why I think that might be incorrect. So let's do an informative history dive here. So Olympic lifting's been around over 120 years. Its formation happened in the early 1900s. A lot of that was driven by a guy named Kravoski that was over in the Soviet Union, that was a doctor that was heavily influenced by weight training. He loved weight training. He had stuff in his facility that would make even someone today go, wow, look at all the different instruments. I call him the Louis Simmons of the early 1900s. Long story short, Olympic lifting's been around much longer than powerlifting. Powerlifting didn't become a sport until the mid-late 60s, if I remember correctly. And so it's only been around about 60, 70 years. Now, where did deadlifts become so injury prone? And that's really interesting, because what you see in the early days, if you do a lot of reading, there weren't a lot of people getting hurt doing deadlifts. I attribute this to a handful of reasons. One, the general population was just more fit in the 60s and 70s than they are today. Number two, nobody was using strength conditioning for football or other sports until the mid-70s, and even then it was archaic at best. University of Nebraska was one of the first colleges to even pick up lifting, and they created a dynasty out of it. But long story short, deadlifting in the proper hands with the proper coaching and the proper preemptive training is about the safest exercise you can do, and it's also one of the most functional. So let's just put that right out to the other edge and go, listen, if you're training with perfect form, which means low spinal flexion, you'll be fine. I'm going to show you a handful of papers right here that show spinal flexion is usually the cause of disc injuries in lifting. So if you hear anybody say, oh, spinal flexion's not bad for you, you need to fucking run away, because in reality, it's probably the easiest way to get your back hurt. Why do people go into spinal flexion? Well, there's a lot of different theories on that. My theory is that as the spine rounds, your body's able to put more pressure over the knees and the quadriceps. It all comes back down to glutes and hamstring strength. And if people had strong glutes and strong hamstrings, along with strong quadriceps and core, they probably wouldn't have back issues, and they probably wouldn't round their back. But you notice that in the United States and even all around the world, most people, if they get involved in powerlifting or sports, they're not directly focused on the hamstrings, the glutes, and the lower back before they start traditional barbell training, right? Well, here we've done it a lot of times over the last 20 years with fire departments and military, where I won't start them with the compound movements, or if I do, it's for assessments only. Everything else comes to technical, and it also is very focused on lower back, hamstrings, and glute activation. And then what I find is that the squatting in the deadlifting form tends to fix itself. But let's get back to the original topic now that you understand a little bit of history and understand that spinal flexion is bad. The trap bar gives you higher leverage advantages, meaning that the handle is higher Therefore, when you set up, you're in a better position to pull heavier weights. Now, calculate that on top of having poor technique, and you're going to find that the trap bar deadlift, in my opinion, is more dangerous than the barbell. And so what we need to do is we need to figure out, why is the trap bar so much more dangerous? So let's get to that. So number one, I think the trap bar tends to be more dangerous. We've already talked about because the handles are higher, therefore you're able to lift more weight. Bad idea for junior high and high school kids, right? The technique is terrible. But there's another reason that nobody I have ever seen talk about with the trap bar deadlift. If you know how to pull with a traditional barbell, the barbell should stay as close to or touching your legs the entire time. This means when you set up for a sumo deadlift or a conventional deadlift, the bar is nearly against your body or completely against your body, ripping the skin off on the way up. This is because the closer you get the bar to your body, the less pressure is on your spine. This is a particular excerpt out of Zatsiorsky's book that shows you the spinal pressure when your back is rounded versus straight. The bar closer to your body, the better off you are as far as leverage is concerned, right? If we lift 5 pounds here and we lift 5 pounds there, it's a lot lighter closer to us. The deadlift is the same. What does this have to do with the trap bar? Well, the trap bar goes around you and you can't pull it into your body, right? So what I find with a lot of beginners and intermediates is if they go really heavy on the trap bar, they tend to twist and helicopter. I call it helicoptering, where they twist and move in weird ways that the straight bar probably wouldn't let them. This is a huge issue that causes a lot of pressure downward with rotation, creating shear force. And so I find in this particular instance makes the trap bar more dangerous. The next thing that I think you find too is a lot of people that like to use the trap bar, and this just might be my own opinion from what I've seen in the last 15 or 20 years as a professional in the field, is people that tend to go to the trap bar also tend to use straps. We see my good friend Hafthor Bjorgensen just breaking the all-time deadlift record with like 505 or 510 kg on the deadlift. They're using a 12-foot long bar with straps. I'm not saying it's not impressive, but my point is that to the average person that goes, well, Hafthor is using straps, Eddie Hall is using straps, why don't I use straps to train? Nobody ever talks about that. Well, in reality, you should stay away from traps, and a lot of times the trap bar deadlift, because it's already taller, it's already making you lift more. If it's a grip issue, you're going to use straps. I find that whatever your hands cannot do, your back cannot do either. So when you take away the hand strength, it doesn't give your body enough time to get your back strength good. I've never seen somebody with extremely strong hands that didn't have an extremely strong lower back, but I've seen the reverse. I've seen guys with weak hands and a weak back, right? So the problem is that when you're training, you need to make sure your hands and your back are of equal strength. That usually gives you enough time to make sure the thoracic and the lumbar spine is ready to do the types of pressures that you're ready to do. This completely negates deadlifting in any form being dangerous as long as you let your hands be the limiting factor. So for a lot of people and clients that I have, I will not let them do an over-under hand grip or even fart around with straps until they can deadlift at least 405 double overhand with no hook grip. If you can do that, the floodgates are open to whatever you want to do. Just remember that grip and back are very equal, in my personal opinion, on what your body can tolerate. Kind of following along the same lines is the trap bar, in my opinion, can be more dangerous because when you're standing at the top, you don't have the bar up against your waist. So on a regular barbell deadlift, the bar is going to be up against your waist, not allowed to oscillate, right? In a trap bar, when you get to the top, you can still move in different ways if your body's not ready for the exercise, you don't have your core strong enough, your obliques aren't firing, your hips aren't stable. There's a lot of different things that can happen with the trap bar. And so what I always say is it's always safer to pull with a barbell with good form than it is with a trap bar based on the fact that the bar is against your body at least 75% of the lift. This gives you some proprioception feedback on where the bar is, keeping the bar up and against you. And I would even say that probably 80% of the reason most people miss a deadlift is because the bar is not against them on the way up. And this usually is a control of the lats. So when you get your lats super strong, the bar wants to come into you. When your lats get weak, they come out. And what I find is that the trap bar does not fix that problem. What you need to be able to do is fire the lats first, whether you're deadlifting with a trap bar or a straight bar, but that's another reason why I think the trap bar is probably not your best bet. So in ending, I think that the barbell deadlift is probably a little bit safer than the trap bar, just in my own personal experience. I'd like to know what your experiences are at the bottom, and let me know what you think about spinal flexion or any of these other things that I've brought up that can be a little bit controversial in the lift or in the lifting community. And what I find is that I try to listen to people that have decades of experience, very minimal to no injuries, and high levels of strength, which negates about 99% of people on fucking YouTube. But if you guys want to, hop on winningstrength.com, check out our online coaching, check out our manuals, and hopefully this video sheds some insight. And if you're going to trap bar deadlift, awesome. Just make sure you're doing it correctly and not using too much load and rounding your back.
Hey, this is Gunnar Peterson. I'm a friend of Matt Wenning's, and I've worked with Matt Wenning, and I've been honored to share a stage with Matt Wenning, and I want to tell you this. His programming is second to none. None. I'm bringing myself into that too, but his programming is phenomenal. His Wenning warm-up changed the game in warm-ups, and honestly, if I'm looking for an online program and I need to mix it up, I'm calling Matt Wenning.